in the amount of $31,350. This is out of our grant match line item in fire prevention and control. And we're wanting to move that to equipment and machinery parts in the same amount. This request is for a line item transfer within the budget to use unobligated grant match funds to purchase water supply equipment, which is valves and hoses. The grant match will not be used because our grant for water supply equipment was not approved. The approval of our request will allow us to proceed with the water supply project as requested and approved by the Health, Education, and Public Welfare Committee on October 10th. We also have two budget amendments from the Board of Education. This says it's budget amendments to balance budget lines. We got $2,500 in contracted services going to textbooks in the same amount, $3,450 in other contracted services going to contracts with government agencies in the same amount, dental insurance in the amount of $521.04 going to a different line item for the same purpose, dental insurance. Liability insurance in the amount of $8,400 going to maintenance and repair service in the same amount. $75 from travel going to in-service and staff development in the same amount. $3,500 in due and memberships going to other charges in the same amount. Building contents insurance, $24,995 going to textbooks in that same amount. Medical insurance, $55,225 going to medical insurance in the same amount, different budget line. So the total budget amendment would be $98,666.04. And then this is it says TISA. I believe this is their TISA funding. It's going to another TISA funding line item in the amount of $35,500. So the total budget amount is $35,500, and that's for TISA. All right. Any questions on any budget amendments?
Do we know what that last one was for? I don't know what that is.
The
You, Miss
educators could
Beth?
probably
I don't know.
explain what TISA is a little bit better than me, but as
I don't
far
have a
as
clue.
what that line item is, I have no idea.
I'll look it up.
You have to ask, maybe contact Patrick Kurtz between now and our next meeting.
That was a
He
new
could
one
probably
on me.
explain it better.
I didn't-
Committee reports. We did have a jail meeting. These are the minutes that was presented by Ms. Beth Pafford, our secretary. I think everybody was there that's here tonight. So, are there any questions on the jail minutes? All right. Proceeding on. The first item in new business is a resolution opposing Education Freedom Act. Ms. Beth Pafford asked for me to add this to the agenda. I'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion. Has anybody got any questions on the resolution?
I think this should be something the Board of Education should do, not the commissioners.
Well, there are cities and commissions and school boards across the state that have passed versions of this.
No, I totally disagree with this,
Okay.
like always. I think the money should follow the children.
And I reviewed it. It's worded the same as it was back in April. Nothing has fundamentally changed about the proposed plan. It is still universal vouchers. They do have 10,000 that will be for students in families making 300% below the poverty, or at that poverty line or below, which is for a family of 4, I think if you're making about, can't remember, it's $70,000 or $90,000, then you can take advantage of that. And then the other half of the vouchers are for anyone. And the one change that the governor has added is funding for new school construction, which is fantastic. We know we need help. It is a huge amount of money that counties have to expend, and little rural counties like ours do not have the tax base that bigger counties do. So my recommendation would be to do that outside of a voucher bill, because that would be beneficial to counties. But public schools, I think it's important for everyone to remember, came to be because there was a belief that every kid should have an opportunity to learn, not just the privileged and the well-connected, because that's how education worked back then. And there was a decision made that the whole community benefited when all kids had access to education. And it was not designed to subsidize the private schools that were already in operation. Now, I am not here to say that I don't ever support using money. My goal is to help as many kids learn as possible. And that is a huge, huge task. And if it was easy, we would have a plan that worked for everybody all the time. But it's hard. They are people, and they all have different needs, and we work really hard to meet those needs. And when there are instances where there's a demonstrated need that a kid would benefit from services at one school that the public school can't provide, I don't have a problem with that. But this doesn't have to do with that. This is not about academic needs. It is not about financial needs. It's about funding private schools, and the states that have implemented universal vouchers have seen their private schools begin over time to require that their parents apply for the vouchers to pay. And so they take up most of the money. And there is a transportation issue. There are a whole lot of pieces that go into going to school that the universal voucher does not take care of. And private schools have interviews. You meet our standards, you meet our values, you can come. You don't, you're not welcome. Specifically says in the plan that IEPs, you're not guaranteed that. So those students are automatically out. So Kentucky, Nebraska, and Colorado, this last election cycle, all voted against a ballot measure to institute universal vouchers. We don't get to do that. Our legislators have to put that on the ballot. The people don't have the power to do that. So one way that we can use our voice to say, this is not a plan we support, is to do it through a resolution. So that's why I'm proposing this again. And TISA is the new funding formula that's put out. It's not BEP anymore. The goal was to supposedly make it better, but there are a lot of concerns about how much money is actually going to be coming to our county to support the operation of schools, especially a couple of years from now. They're still figuring everything out. I've also heard they've created a new definition for the way they determine if students are labeled economically disadvantaged, which is where you get more money for more kids that are economically disadvantaged. Also, the new funding source that the governor has said they've got for the new school construction, that is the sports betting money, revenues from that. They've been taking money in for that since 2021. That money goes into the Lottery for Education program, which funds all kinds of things. After school programs, the 2-year associate's degree, the Hope Scholarship, college for students with special needs, veterans to have scholarships. So where are the cuts going to be so that they can use that 80% towards school construction? Again, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But I want for the construction. But I don't want to take away from other good programs that have gone on in the state to do that.
And TISA, to me, what I'm reading here, it's Tennessee Investment in Student Achievement. And it should increase funding and provides funding based on student need through its base and its weight. So pretty much what she was just saying, that's what the TISA program, is that relatively new, the TISA?
Yes, I think last year was the first year, and they really didn't make any changes in funding because they didn't know how it was going to work out. And the school board gets told, my understanding is they get kind of a estimated number, but halfway through the school year, they can be told there's $1 million or more that they will not be getting because it is a stricter accounting of student attendance and the school daily attendance. Also, when that money goes to the private schools, they are not held to the same accountability that public schools are, and public schools should be held accountable for student learning and a whole host of things. Private schools will not be held to that. They did say they will have to take a national test. Our public school students are required to take TCAP, and my question would be, will their third graders be held back if they do not meet expectations on the reading portion of the test? Will they be required to have tutoring in 4th grade? And tutoring's great. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing that the state has done. Again, they've cut back funding on it now. Will the 4th graders be checked for adequate growth to make sure they're learning at the rate? And then will they be required to have tutoring every day when they move to 5th grade if they don't show the adequate growth? It is, in my opinion, that taxpayer money should be tracked, and there should be some accountability there also.